Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días, aquí tienen el horario para hoy, jueves el 27 de febrero. Your learning target for today is to continue to talk about family members and your relationship with each other, and also to begin to use the grammar that we looked at last class to talk about your daily routine. Your warm-up question for today, ¿Dónde vives y con quién vives? You guys are going to use the notes from last class, which are on page 126, right here, where we talked about the regular present tense endings of ER and IR verbs, how ER and IR verbs have conjugation endings just as AR verbs do. Looked at AR verbs on page 78 in the first semester. O, as, a, amos, an are the regular conjugation endings in the present tense for AR verbs. ER and IR verbs, similar endings, just switching out the A in o, as, a, amos, an for an E. That's how you get your regular ER endings and IR endings, the same, essentially, with the exception of the nosotros forms. ER and IR verbs have the same exact endings except for the nosotros form ending. Instead of hemos for ER verbs, you have imos for IR verbs. We went over the regular ER and IR verbs that you can anticipate that are very commonly used on a day-to-day basis in Spanish. One of them is the verb vivir, which is the verb to live. And that is the verb that's being used in your warm-up question for today. ¿Dónde vives? Is asking where do you live in the to form, right? ¿Dónde vives tú? And con quién vives? And who do you live with? So you're going to respond to that question with the verb vivir in the yo form. Drop the IR in vivir, put an O for the yo form. Yo vivo means I live, and then indicate where you live. For example, yo vivo in Brentwood. Yo vivo in Discovery Bay, right? I live in whatever community. Then con quién is asking who do you live with? Yo vivo con mi madre, mi padre y mis hermanos. Yo vivo con mi padre y mi gato. Whomever it is you live with is all good. Nothing due for today. No homework due for next class. Just reviewing the notes as we did. On page 126, we have a peer interview activity, 2 activities to ask and answer questions to. If you're an 8A class, then you will do these questions in a speed dating format. If you're not an 8A class, well, I guess you're off the hook, that you will do these in your notebooks regardless. And then we will finish your conjugation bingo cards, and I will show you at the end of this video how to do that. Again, no homework for the weekend. Bingo will be due on the next day that I see you, but we'll discuss that. We'll have to play and make sure that everything is filled out correctly. All right, let's take a look at activities 4 and 5 on page 129. These are questions in the to form that I'd like you to respond to. Okay, we're going to do 4 and 5. Answer these questions in the yo form to the greatest extent possible. ¿Dónde comes al mediodía y comes mucho? Where do you eat lunch during the day? Yo como en la cafetería. Yo como en clase. Yo como con mis amigos. Yo como, well, not with con mis amigos, that would be who, not where. Yo como en el gimnasio. I mean, where do you guys have lunch? Yo como, and then a place. ¿Cuándo asistes a tus clases? When do you attend? You know what? I'll be honest with you. Of these questions, the number 4, I'm really only going to have you answer 3. That's what we did for the A days. And we'll do that for the B days as well. So let's just do 3 of them. We'll do number 3, 4, and 5 you actually already did as your warm-up. We'll do 3, 6, and 8 from activity 4, and then you'll do all of the questions for activity 5. Number 3, ¿cuál es tu clase favorita y por qué? What is your favorite class and why? Mi clase favorita es blank, whatever the class is. ¿Por qué? Porque me gusta, and then give me a verb or verbs that you would associate with your favorite class. For example, mi clase favorita es inglés porque me gusta leer, to read, y escribir, to write. Mi clase favorita es arte porque me gusta dibujar, draw, y pintar, paint. Mi clase favorita es español porque me gusta hablar en español y practicar español. So 2 verbs you would associate with your favorite class. Number 6, ¿qué cursos debes tomar el próximo semestre? What are classes, and maybe give 3 classes that you plan to take next semester, which would be the first semester of next academic year. Yo debo tomar inglés, arte y álgebra el próximo semestre. Yo debo tomar matemáticas, ciencia y educación física el próximo semestre. El próximo semestre yo debo tomar historia, química y inglés. And finally, number 8, ¿recibes muchos mensajes? ¿De quién? Do you receive a lot of text messages? From who? Sí, yo recibo mensajes de mis amigos. Yo recibo mensajes de mi familia. Yo recibo muchos mensajes de mis amigos y mis hermanos. Activity 5. ¿Vives en una casa? Do you live in a home? ¿Bebes café? Do you drink coffee? ¿Corres todos los días? Do you run every day? ¿Comes mucho en restaurantes? Do you eat out a lot in restaurants? ¿Recibes mucho correo electrónico? Do you receive a lot of email? ¿Comprendes 3 lenguas? Do you understand 3 languages? ¿Debes estudiar más? Do you need to study more? ¿Lees muchos libros? Do you read a lot of books? Simply answer these questions with sí or no, and then conjugate the verbs that you have there at the beginning in the yo form. Vivo, bebo, corro, como, recibo, comprendo, debo, and leo. All of these verbs, if you're not sure their meaning, you can go back to page 127. All of those verbs should be listed there. All right, that's your interview activity, numbers 4 and 5. Again, just numbers 3, 6, and 8 for activity 4, everything for activity 5. And then the last thing I'm going to have you guys do is to finish filling out your conjugation bingo cards. Now, just to recap, you should already have a game for AR verbs done already. Now, I can't recall what those verbs were. They always fluctuate depending upon the period. So I would invite you, if you didn't, or you lost the paper, or whatever the reason may be, if you need to do this again, just pick 5 AR verbs from the list on page 79. For example, bailar, buscar, caminar, cantar, and cenar. Any 5. Makes no difference at all. And conjugate each of those verbs just as we instructed, changing the B-I-N-G-O in bingo with these subject pronouns, and then conjugate all 5 of your verbs in the yo form, in the to form, él, ella, nosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes. So, for example, if you are doing the verb bailar, it would be bailó, bailas, baila, bailamos, and bailan, that you put the conjugation wherever it corresponds in each vertical column. Again, the vertical columns are titled this way with the different subject pronouns that we use to conjugate verbs in the present tense. Bailó, bailas, baila, bailamos, bailan. Just like this example verb, estudiar, is done. So that's game 1. Game 2 was all ER verbs. So going back to page 127, we got about 8 or 10 here to choose from. Choose 5 of them and conjugate them just like you did for the AR verbs in the yo form, in the to form, él, ella, nosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes. That's your second game. Your third game is going to be all IR verbs. Back to page 127. Choose 5 IR verbs, any 5 IR verbs that you're choosing, and conjugate them in the corresponding boxes provided. You'd be on the back now. And for your fourth and final game, it'll be a mix of AR, ER, and IR. So at least one AR verb, at least one ER verb, and at least one IR verb, and then the other two, whatever, AR, ER, IR. But I do want at least one of each of the 3 verbs used to fill in that fourth and final game.